Are you ready for some football? Your Chicago Bears, aka the Monsters of the Midway, are preparing for a primetime matchup against the Minnesota Vikings inside their new dome. We'll give you a quick preview in just a moment. In other action from the NFL yesterday, the New York Jets decided to show up while the Indianapolis Colts uh, literally dropped their playoff chances by a lot. In baseball, Kyle Tucker gets with the Cubs via the trade, while the White Sox are continuing to rebuild. That the final lineup in college basketball, it came down to a final seconds against the number ranked Tennessee Volunteers. And we'll have a special edition of Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more in Second City Sports. The Monday edition starts right now. Welcome to another fun film Monday edition of Second City Sports. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I ain't Sydney Brown. You know that's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, executes again, IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you full stability and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you whether you're watching us live on Sports Zone Chicago's YouTube or Facebook pages, or you're watching us on the replay. Shout out to the replay gang. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We are always here for you, and you know we always will provide.
And we're providing you here on...
Except for that.
Well, we'll gear up for the holidays here on Second City Sports, of course. The Bulls had a nice win against the Hornets, and we'll preview the NBA Cup matchup coming up tomorrow night between the Bucks and the Thunder. Illinois lost a tough one in college hoops over the weekend, and that was actually not a bad... after that, it was actually not a bad weekend for local teams. Of course, we got a new Heisman Trophy winner. And so much more. But first, I guess we got a preview. The one thing I did like the fact that yesterday that we didn't have to worry about watching a Bears game to agitate ourselves for. We actually had to watch some good football. Of course, the Bears were playing tonight as part of the Monday night, not necessarily doubleheader, but there are two games on the Monday night tonight. They play the Vikings in the Twin Cities, and the Vikings actually have a lot to play for. We'll get to that in a second here, but the Bears. I mean, they're 4-9. They were already eliminated last week, but they're now officially eliminated from playoff contention. It's kind of like okay, it's more of a pride thing, I guess. But now you got Braxton Holmes he's now gonna be out too. Their left tackle, so now he's out because he didn't clear concussion protocol. So and Brian Flores, the OC, the DC I should say for the Vikings will be blitzing even more than they did in their first meeting a few weeks ago. You got to think that it's going to be more of a factor there as well. And I think, look, Eric Washington, the interim DC for the Bears, even said that, the Bears defense got to play better. Well, you got the personnel. I mean, as our buddy Christy Mack was saying from KXRB, are they mentally and, checked out at this point? I'm talking about the Bears. So what, I don't know what to say about this one. I might not watch this game as intently as I should, but I probably won't.
Here's the thing about the Bears and everybody else in the NFL, which we'll talk about coming up later. But focusing on the Bears, we always say around this time of year, if you don't have a playoff spot to play for, you are playing for something, and that's your job. You got to have a job if you want to be with me. Shout out to the late great Gwen Guthrie from 1986. But my point is that you do have something to play for if you're the Chicago Bears. That's your job, your position on the team, or a different team that you're going to play for next year. So, as I said on the show last Friday, the Bears do have something to play for. It is their job. And the way that they played last week, especially in the first half against San Francisco, they owe it to themselves and to the organization and to that coaching staff to play better. And I think they'll do that tonight. But what we're going to see tonight, besides hopefully a great effort, for them to compete and maybe spoil the party of the Minnesota Vikings a little bit. As you said, we'll talk about what affected them, what the outcome effects of this game tonight could be different for tonight's game for the Vikings coming up on the flip side. But for the Bears, I'm looking for a great, better effort, opposite of what happened last week in San Francisco. You mentioned with the injuries to the offensive line for the Bears. Don't forget about DeAndre Swift, different, I believe, with a hamstring injury. I think he's going to play. But the Bears just got to get back to basics offensively and running the football, taking the pressure off of Caleb Williams. Speaking of Caleb, he needs to protect the football better, not hold the ball too long. If he holds the ball longer than 3 seconds, it's going to be disastrous. If he does that again tonight against this Vikings defense, like you said with Brian Flores, they will make him pay. Now, defensively, we know this Bears defense has not been the same since mid-October, and it continues to get worse. But I want to see them, whoever is available as far as healthy bodies. I want to see them give better effort tonight. I know last year was a different team. They went in there and pulled off the upset, but I sense that things are a little bit different this time for the Chicago Bears. So like you said, if are they already mentally checked out? Will they play for each other, or will they be selfish and play for themselves and for their contracts, whoever are free agents and whatnot? So there's a lot of things riding on for the Bears tonight that obviously has nothing to do with the playoffs. It's called pride.
Well, Jervon Dexter's out as well, so that's a big that's a big dent in that offensive front. I mean, Montez Sweat he needs to do a little bit more. Trey Edmonds needs to do a little bit more too, as well. Jalen Johnson, I know he's going to be guarding Justin Jefferson tonight, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But I just don't know if this Bears squad. I don't know. I mean, look, if you get the same Bears team that you saw against San Fran last week, then I might as well just say, what's going to be an ending early. Like I said when we did our picks on Sunday, I mean on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
it's not. It's either I don't think it's going to come down to go into overtime and then it'll be a last second sudden death field goal so that ended up winning for the Vikings. I think and again, we'll get to why the Vikings just means a lot. This game means a lot even more to now in a second here. But I think for me, I think this whole thing with the Bears, I think it just seems like they're kind of mentally checked out. Look, I would love to be wrong, but I just don't see it. And I think with all the rumors going on about Ryan Poles and everything else, it's just like one of those things where you're kind of like what's there for them to do at this point. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with this because I think this is going to be like the main thing here about how the Bears respond to that. I mean, could look a tough a fast start is going to be key here, and I think this is going to determine whether or not this ends up being a blowout or not.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you, hanging out with you on this Monday, fun Monday edition, previewing tonight's Monday Night Football contest between the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. You watch that game on ABC and ESPN at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Take a look at the numbers via the rankings between both these teams. In offense, the Vikings are ranked 17th, the Bears dead last. That's no joke. In total defense, Vikings number 8, the Bears come in at number 15. In passing, the Bears dead last, Minnesota at number 14. And in rushing, Minnesota ranks 22nd, while the Bears rank 5 spots below them at number 27. Lakina, as you said, we could dive into the numbers. We could dive into what happened the last time these two teams played back in November. It all comes down to the basis for the Bears, especially offensively. Flip side for Minnesota, we talked about this with our guest Ahmad Hicks on the show last Friday. If Sam Darnold has anything close to the performance he had last week against Atlanta with the 5 touchdown passes, if he has between 3 and 4 Minnesota wins going away, I think you can't put him in the conversation for MVP. And for Minnesota, for them to finish strong, especially after what happened with one of their division foes yesterday, they're sensing the kill, and we'll see how much they come out motivated tonight. They have everything in front of them. From what happened yesterday, we'll get to on the flip side, like you said. And they're playing against an inferior Bears team, a division opponent, and you're at home. You have everything to play for if you're the Minnesota Vikings. Let's see if they come out fired and ready to go, or they're just going to come out whole hump. Obviously, on paper, the pressure is more on them. But for the flip side, for the Bears, let's see if they could play with pride and perhaps ruin Minnesota's season a little bit, change their sitting, change their plans as far as the playoffs are concerned.
I think the secondary is going to be key for the Vikings. We'll see if Stephon Gilmore, he hasn't been ruled out yet, so we'll see if he's able to play. That front seven with Harrison Smith, you got to think that he'll probably be a big factor tonight for the Vikings. And of course, we know about Aaron Jones. He loves playing the Bears. He did have a bit of a fumble against that could have that game should have been blown out a few weeks ago. So we'll see if they're going to want to try to go for the kill there or early. And Addison might be a factor as well. I'm sure Jalen Naylor too. I mean, that's going to be another guy that's going to be the thing. We'll see, because I think if the Bears don't get into a quick start, I think that's been the problem for the Bears for the whole year. Well, even with the skid, that's going to be the thing. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, and another element that comes into play too. I think you probably alluded this to a moment ago. If you did, I apologize. I'm just repeating what you said. But in the first meeting, Justin Jefferson was held in check pretty nicely, but Jordan Addison, the second wide receiver for the Vikings, had a great performance. And I want to see what the Bears' defensive plan is against Jordan Addison tonight, because as well as I do, Justin Jefferson is going to do everything damn near possible to have a breakout game tonight. He's one of the top two wide receivers in the game, and we all know that he's going to get double covered, but is he going to do enough to get open to have a breakout game? And if that's the case, it opens it up that much more for that Vikings offense. You talking about Jalen Naylor. We're talking about Jordan Addison. Let's not forget about the tight end TJ Hockenson. He was injured early year, but looks like he's starting to get it going now. So the Vikings have more plethora of weapons than the Chicago Bears do. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bears defense counteracts that tonight.
All right, well, let's take a really quick break. Of course, we'll start recapping NFL Week 15 slate as to why we are saying that the Vikings, have a lot to play for. It's actually, they control their own destiny, and not just in the NFC North, but in the whole NFC. Also, to a couple of big injuries, could impact a couple of Super Bowl contending teams. And of course, studs and does, and so much more. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, recapping with Week 15 coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
And welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago with Keita McGee here. My bro from another Cindy Brown over here. You can follow like Keita McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG. Yes, it's
You can follow your Shirley Cindy.
there you go.
Yeah, you can follow your Shirley Cindy Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. Doing for our NFL Power Hour. So, you have any questions or comments for us regarding yesterday's action, or you have a prediction for tonight's Bears Vikings game, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Recapping the rest of the NFL Week 15 slate, we start up in New Jersey as the Ravens took care of business coming off a bye as they beat the Giants 35-14. Mr. Lamar Jackson had 209 yards and 5 TD passes. Rashawn Bateman had 2 of those TD catches. Of course, he had 80 receiving yards. Derrick Henry had 67 rushing yards. Tim Boyle had 123 passing yards, a touchdown and interception for the Giants in a losing effort there. And it's the franchise-tying 9th straight home loss for the Giants. And look, we were afraid of this Ravens coming off a bye, especially, but it's actually the best Ravens team we've seen all year, and they actually did what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and that's what marks a good football team. They take care of business against the lesser opponents, and you're very competitive against the above 500 teams. The New York Giants, they quit on Brian Dable. You saw that again yesterday. The Ravens, as you mentioned, they came out with a fast start. Lamar Jackson looked like Lamar Jackson with those 5 touchdown passes. Is, in my opinion, is between he and Josh Allen for the league MVP. We'll get to Josh Allen later. But as you mentioned, the Ravens did what they had to do. Derrick Henry didn't have the best of days in terms of statistics, but his presence on the field was effective. And so the Ravens won that game going away. Now they have a chance to really make their mark on that AFC North division with their matchup next Saturday against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Let's see. I can't wait to preview that one later this week. Jets, we'll get this one out the way because this was actually kind of the holdable game. Jets outlasted the Jags 32-35. We saw a little bit of the old Devontae Adams and Lamar Jackson. Adams became the first, just the 12th player in NFL history with 100 receiving yards, 100 receiving touchdown, I should say. And he had a couple of TD catches yesterday for the Jets. And Mr. Aaron Rodgers, got a little bit of the old MVP Aaron Rodgers, 289 yards and 3 TDs. He's also the leading rusher in that squad. Mac Jones, 294 yards and 2 TDs and 2 interceptions. But the Jets, it was actually the Jets defense, oddly enough, that made a couple big plays like they sealed that win for them.
Yep, I actually had the Jaguars winning this game on Friday, if you guys remember. They were this close, but and they couldn't quite finish the deal. You mentioned a vintage performance by Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams actually gave me 41 points on my fantasy team, even though I lost yesterday, but that's a whole nother story. But Brees Hall finally scored a touchdown for the first time in a month. Where he was on my fantasy team was because I cut his ass 2 weeks ago, but that's besides the point. But
Mhm.
he had a bunch of big disappointments from the Jets all year. They finally decided to show up yesterday. And you mentioned Aaron Rodgers, vintage Aaron Rodgers. Could he be doing this for another team next year? Who knows? But the Jets are out of it. I know many other fans want them to get that number one draft pick. Same with Jacksonville. So, like you said, this was the toilet bowl. But in terms of the early games being competitive, this along with another one we'll talk about in a minute were the only two competitive games in the early window. I found myself watching Jets and Jaguars the last 5 minutes live
Yeah, I know. It was actually
because the
pretty.
rest of the games were in the early window so terrible.
Yeah, I mean, they were actually, yeah. So there's actually a pretty entertaining game. I actually looked at this game more on my red zone feed, so that was a little bit surprised that a little bit weird that I would be watching that game, mostly. But because unfortunately, the two games we got here in Chicago, we'll talk about one of them right now. But yeah, it was a pretty bad slate for the most part. But the Cowboys, they beat the Panthers 30-14. That was one of the games we got here in Chicago yesterday. The Cowboys go to 6-8. They're still in the hunt, for one of those wild card spots, but they're gonna have to win out, and they're gonna have to get a lot of help. Cooper Rush, looked like early Tony Romo, 214 yards and 3 TDs. Rico Dowdle had 149 rushing yards. CeeDee Lamb had 160 yards and a TD catch. Bryce Young, on the other hand, 2 interceptions. He was sacked 6 times, and we thought that they would cover. I'm talking about the Panthers did, but that didn't end up being the case here.
That's all right. Yours truly doesn't bet on a consistent basis. The Cowboys. This is kind of what we were predicting last Friday when we did our picks. The Panthers have been playing well over the last month or so. They just can't get over the hump and get a victory. The Cowboys, the second half made a difference for them yesterday, outscoring Carolina 20-7 in that second half, including scoring 14 unanswered points to start the third quarter.
Ooh, just not. But at least they're in the hunt to keep that pick. So we'll see what happens there. Now, another entertaining game that ended up coming down to the wire. 2019, the Commanders hold off the Saints. Jaden Daniels had 2 TD passes, 226 yards. He also was a leading rusher. I know Sid hates that. Spencer Rattler come on as Jake Hader just couldn't overcome a terrible start. He actually led the Saints down the field for a TD. Now they actually went for 2 instead of playing for overtime. They didn't get it, so the Commanders escaped the Big Easy with a win. Unfortunately, Daniels also got sacked 8 times, so they're gonna have to work on that there. But they do go to 9-5. They kind of control their own destiny to clinch that playoff berth in the NFC.
You just kind of got that feeling after the first half, the Commanders were invincible. At least they played that way. In that second half, you kind of wonder if they were just playing not to lose instead of playing to win. The Saints got all the confidence in the world. Like you said, they actually made it a game of it, and the Commanders escaped by the skin of their team by the 2-point conversion being missed by the Saints. Now, if you're the Saints, you have nothing to play for. So I'm glad they took that risk. But if you're Washington, if you're Dan Quinn, yes, you got the victory yesterday, but you got a lot of problems there. You're 9-5 right now on the doorstep for the playoffs, but you got a lot of things to clean up. But I think part of it starts with attitude. Like, okay, you went up 14-0 at recess, but you got to finish the deal, and that's what all young teams had to go through. You got to go through these painful lessons. You got to play a full 60-minute complete game, and the Commanders got away with that yesterday. If they would have done that against a better team, they would have lost.
Yeah, you wonder if they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. So you kind of wonder whatever. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do here. But you get the win, you leave. But yeah, you're going to kind of wondering, what's going to happen here. But we'll see how the Commanders do. They have a pretty tough schedule coming up these last 3 games. Bengals and Titans. This one, was entertaining for a little bit, but it was all Bengals after that. Now their Titans came just short. Now Jamar Chase, joined some elite company yesterday. He became just a fifth. He became just a 5th NFL player in history that with at least 100 receptions, 1,400 receiving yards, and 15 TDs in a season. He joined a pretty good company. Marvin Harrison and Randy Moss. We'll get to him in a bit here. We send him best wishes. Jerry Rice and of course Cooper Kupp, who did the year the Rams won the Super Bowl. So and also Joe Burrow. He also became the he had 3 TD passes. He became the 5th player with at least 3 TD passes in 6 straight games. The only QBs to do that are pretty good list. Tom Brady, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, and Dan Marino. So pretty good company that he joins in his own right. But yeah, the Bengals are 6-8, kind of the same spot as the Cowboys are, and they got to win now to perhaps get a lot of help in the AFC. But they're keeping their playoff hopes alive.
Well, it was a different scenario with the Bengals last year. Joe Burrow was out for the year, and the Bengals played hard down the stretch to damn near made the playoffs. This year, it was a bad start that they got off to, and they couldn't quite recover. Even if they do win out, the Bengals will get a lot of help, which I don't think is impossible, but because of the early bad starts in September, October, I think this is going to keep this Bengals team out of the playoffs. But you see what this Bengals team has the potential to do when they're healthy. Yes, granted against the Titans, but this is how the Cincinnati Bengals go. Chase Brown is their future running back. You saw that yesterday with this touchdown run and his 97 rushing yards. On the flip side, for Tennessee, they need a new quarterback. Will Levis is not getting it done. He needs a change of address. It's just that simple.
Yeah, among other things. But yeah, we'll get to that at a later time. The Chiefs, took care of business against the Browns, 21-7. So it didn't really get into a last second field goal or anything strange like that. But so to keep an eye on, Pat Mahomes injured his ankle. Now the X-rays were negative, but they're saying he's week to week. But that's something to keep an eye on as we go into the playoffs here. Jameis Winston, not a good part of Jameis Winston's experience. He threw 3 interceptions. Not really much a note here for this one.
No pick sixes, right?
No pick sixes.
So the Lord did deliver him from a pick six.
Yep. So So that was action. Not kind of not ended up not being too bad for him there. But yeah, the Chiefs. The injuries are starting to mount for them, and you wonder, like I said, that Mahomes injury. I know he said it before, and they've won, despite his injuries. But at the same time, though, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what that could be something to look out for.
Yeah, when he injured his ankle a couple of years ago when they won that Super Bowl over Philadelphia, remember that happened in the playoffs, so that injury was fresh. Now you got how much of the offensive game plan they're going to adjust with the immobility of Patrick Mahomes. It depends on how severely the ankle injury is. Let's not forget the Chiefs are starting their 3-game stretch within 11 days. Remember, they'll play on Saturday at home against Houston, and then Wednesday on Christmas Day. Next Wednesday on Christmas Day against, I believe, I forget who they play against. Someone was you put in the chat, but they're starting their 3 games in an 11-day cycle. And we'll see how the Chiefs will fare, like you said, especially in terms of health coming out of this. They don't have too many more significant injuries. I think they can deal with the Pat Mahomes ankle injury okay, because they're in the driver's seat for that number 1 seed in the AFC, and they'll get that week off, and they'll benefit Mahomes. But if they lose one of these next 2, or heaven forbid they lose these next 2, they're definitely in trouble.
Yeah, they'll play the Texans on Saturday, and then they have the Steelers on Christmas Day.
Steelers, okay.
And then they have the Broncos coming up after that. So all 3 of these teams are well within striking distance. We'll talk about the Texans because they already took the playoff spot. But the Steelers, they also took the playoff spot. But the Broncos, this might actually get them a playoff spot. So they could lose these last 3. So we'll see what happens with that. As the second seed sports on Chicago, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Now, speaking of Houston, they put the playoff spot and also the AFC South for the second straight year. They held off the Dolphins 20-12, and not the prettiest game by the Texans, but they're not used to. They haven't really had a lot of pretty games this year. CJ Stroud threw for 2 TDs, only 131 passing yards. Not a lot in the rushing department, only 77 rushing yards there. Again, don't really have to do too much, but unfortunately Tua threw a sack 3 times and 3 interceptions. That didn't help me on my fantasy team, but Devin Akane only 41 rushing yards as well. So it wasn't, again, not the prettiest, but you'll take the win if you're the Texans.
It was Houston's defense that bailed out the Texans, and on the flip side for the Dolphins, they just, as you mentioned, they couldn't get nothing going offensively. The lack of the running game. Tyreek Hill wasn't hurt from Jalen Watt. I know he was injured, but he wasn't hurt from either. So it was the Texas defense that got it done for Houston, but Houston's got to go back to the drawing board to get back to playing some great football on a consistent basis offensively. As I said before, and I'll say it again, one of the reasons why CJ Stroud is struggling this year because Joe Mixon partially has been hurt from early in the year, but Joe Mixon with that running game makes that Texans offense go. So goes he, so goes that Texans offense.
Derek Stingley Jr. had 2 interceptions for the Texans, so that helped them held off the Dolphins. There now, the first of the 3 o'clock games. Shout out to Buddy Spiro Dews who had the call of this game for CBS. The Broncos overcame a slow start. It was all especially in the fourth quarter. They scored 21 unanswered as they beat the Colts 31-13. Bo Nix threw for 3 TDs, 3 interceptions though, so it was kind of an even day for him. Anthony Richardson threw for 2 interceptions. Now Jonathan Taylor had 107 rushing yards, but would have had a touchdown, but he ran the ball.
Yo, drop my ball, son.
And the ball out. The ball just dropped. Came out of his hands. And they actually would have been up. The Colts actually would have been up big after that. But that game actually ended up turning. Thanks to that whoopsie in the end zone.
The Broncos, we knew it was going to be a tough game because of the way that Indianapolis plays offensively with Anthony Richardson, but we mentioned it was that Broncos defense that sealed the deal, especially in that second half as the Broncos outscored the Colts 21-0 in that fourth quarter. Bo Nix, I know he didn't have the greatest of days in terms of the sets, but he did fight back. Besides those turnovers, he did fight back and played well down the stretch. On the flip side for the Colts, we all know who they are. They're a mediocre football team, and as I said to you before we started broadcasting live, the little playoff chances that the Colts had, it just went away when Jonathan Taylor let that ball go before he reached the end zone yesterday.
And Nick Menino had a scoop and score there for the Broncos as well. That definitely kind of turned the game. That started the scoring going.
A screen pass, no doubt.
That was. I don't know what they were. I don't know what the Colts were thinking doing that double pass, but then. Menino was not fooled by that, so good for him. But yeah,
it was like taking the candy away from a baby and running down the other way, and that's what happened.
Oh gosh, so you're not speaking from personal experience, are you? With that?
No. Never ever.
All right, now the Cardinals keeping their NFC West playoff division chances alive. They just took care of business against the Patriots, 30-17. Kyler Murray had 224 yards. But it was James Conner who was the big story there, 110 rushing yards and 2 TDs. On the flip side, though, Drake May had a TD reception through for 202 yards. And, the Cardinals, look, they did what they're supposed to do. Patriots tried to make it interesting, but it was kind of like garbage points after that. It was really all Cardinals.
Yeah, it was the Cardinals that took full control from start to finish. Kyler Murray had a better performance yesterday, but as you mentioned, it was James Conner rushing for over 100 yards and with 2 rushing TDs. As I've been begging for the Cardinals over the last month, where has James Conner been? Well, he showed up yesterday. He was the MVP offensively for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's not forget about Trey McBride as well. He got back to superstar numbers as that young start tight end. 9 catches for 87 yards. So the Cardinals technically are still in this thing at 7-7, but they're going to have to win out and get some help as well to go to get in the playoffs for the first time in 3 years.
All right. Probably one of the bigger surprises of the day over in Los Angeles. The Bucks beat the Chargers pretty handily, 40-17. We all lost on that one. 288 yards and 4 TDs for Mr. Baker Mayfield. Bucky Irving had 117 rushing yards. Mr. Mike Evans, 159 receiving yards and 2 TDs. On the flip side, though, for the Chargers, 195 yards and 2 TDs for Justin Herbert. Couldn't get going on the rushing side, though. Only 32 rushing yards total for the Chargers. So, but to the credit of the Bucks, I mean, I don't think a lot of people had them win this game. But look, the Bucks this way could go a long way, especially in the still competitive NFC South.
Yeah, it might tilted the NFC South division race back in their favor, despite them losing the season series to the Falcons. Baker Mayfield played outstanding yesterday with 4 touchdown passes. Did you check out that second touchdown pass he did to excuse me, where the perfect strike to Mike Evans. Mike Evans' second touchdown. That was just a perfect strike against a tough Chargers defense. I thought that broke the game wide open in that third quarter for the Buccaneers there. Bucky Evers, you mentioned 117 yards off of 15 carries. This Bucks offense is more dangerous than what we thought on paper. And now they're starting to get their running game going. We saw it happen for the last couple of weeks. Now with Baker Mayfield playing the way he's playing, the Buccaneers could be a dangerous team in the playoffs this year if they get in like they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, despite the injuries, you'll give the Bucks credit. They've been able to stick with it, and look, they put up probably one of the little slighter upsets of the day. So good for the Bucks. One of the games of the week yesterday, and if you took the over on this one, you had a nice little late Sunday afternoon. The Bills held off the Lions 48-42. Two TDs for Josh Allen, 362 yards. On the flip side, Jared Goff had 494 yards and 5 TDs. Now, he's actually the first QB to have almost over 400 yards, over 5 TDs, no interceptions, but they end up losing. So, unfortunately, they've been a losing effort. James Cook had 105 yards and 2 TDs. Josh Allen had 2 rushing TDs. Jameer Gibbs had 31 rushing yards and a TD, but unfortunately, they lose David Montgomery for the rest of the season through an MCL injury. They lost another one of their defensive guys. He tore his ACL, so he's done for the year. And I think they lost another one of their corners with a broken jaw. So unfortunately, the Lions are literally getting guys off the scrap sheet to play defense, especially. And now with this loss, the Vikings now control their own destiny in the NFC North. Not just that, but in the whole entire NFC. If they win out the Vikings, they get the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, it's going to come down between these three teams: the Lions, the Vikings, and the Eagles. Whoever's the healthiest, whoever's playing the best down the stretch, they're going to get the number 1 seed. A team that really desperately needs that number 1 seed. You talked about the Detroit Lions, but it looks like because of injuries and guys just going down, they may lose out on it. And as we said, when Aiden Hutchinson got hurt a couple months ago, yeah, you may can get by outscoring teams, but once health and once December comes around, you may have to change that strategy. Dan Campbell and the Lions are finding that out right now. And the way that the Bills played yesterday, they got out to that fast start. You knew it was going to be a long day for that Lions defense. Josh Allen, as you mentioned, his numbers. I said this for the last couple of weeks. He's playing at an MVP type level. Too bad they lost that game against the Rams last week. But what happened yesterday, he carried that team on his back, and the Bills are a couple of games behind the Chiefs for that top spot in the AFC. So the Bills are coming on at the right time. The Lions, like you said, they just got to get healthy, and they got to get bodies out the scrap heap just to fill out the roster. And the Lions' schedule now just suddenly got a little bit tougher. They come to Chicago next week. That game is not going to be easy.
Yeah, at Buffalo, they extend its franchise for over 30-plus points in its 8th straight game. They're the first team to have that since the 2013 Broncos to pull off that feat and have scored. This is the most points that Detroit has given up this year. So, might be something to look out for too with all those injuries. Now, the Battle of the Commonwealth as we go further west here, as the Eagles beat the Steelers 27-13. Jalen Hurts had 2 TD passes and 290 yards. Saquon Barkley was a little banged up, but he still mustered up 65 rushing yards. A.J. Brown, 110 receiving yards and a TD. Devontae Smith had 109 yards and a TD as well. On the flip side, though, the Steelers couldn't get it going on offense. Is like the lowest, 163 yards of total offense yards. And that's the lowest since 2009. So give the defense credit for the Eagles for holding them on. And I mean, the Eagles looking pretty good, but yeah, they're making the case for being the best team in the NFC, like you just said.
And also, too, on the flip side for Pittsburgh, let's not forget George Pickens, their top wide receiver, did not play yesterday, so that had something to do with it as well. Now, the Steelers' running game, Najee Harris had a fumble there early in the game, so I think he let that affect him, and so the Steelers couldn't run the ball the way they wanted to. Back to Philadelphia's offensive performance. Seems like everybody was happy. It was talking about the drama between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts and coaches yelling at each other on the sidelines and this and that. But winning doesn't cure everything. It just covers up a lot. And that's what happened with Philadelphia yesterday. They were dominant. in their performance. The Steelers tried to make it close, but Philadelphia was just too much for them offensively, especially in that second half.
Going to be interesting to see what happens here because Barkley needs 418 yards over these last 3 games to top Eric Dickerson's 40-year-old NFL rushing record with 2,105 yards for the Rams. He did 40 years ago in '84. Now, it'll be interesting to see if it happens there now. TJ Watt actually got hurt for the Steelers, so that's something to look out for as well. So we'll see. I mean, look, the Eagles. Winning is kind of the biggest deodorant, as I always say. But yeah, you wonder is it coming up the bigger problems? But we'll see what happens. But they got the win yesterday against a tough Steelers team, so they kind of got that going there. Now to the Sunday night game up in Seattle, it was all Packers. I think we all picked the Packers, but I don't think we thought it would be by this score, 30-13. Jordan Love 2 TDs and 229 yards. Josh Jacobs had a rushing TD in 94 rushing yards. 149 yards for Geno Smith, who got banged up with a knee injury now. They play the Vikings next week, so it looks like he's going to be week to week, but they don't know how serious it is. Zach Charbonnet only had 54 rushing yards. Jackson Enigma had 83 receiving yards, but none of the other guys were affected. But yeah, it was really all Packers, and it was definitely all Packers in this game.
Yeah, the Packers established the rushing offense of their game in the beginning, jumping out to the score of 14-0. They set the tone from start to finish. Seattle, I thought they were going to have a better performance of this. It turns out they didn't. Defense was nowhere to be seen. And of course, you mentioned the injury to Geno Smith was the death nail in the Seahawks call. We all thought that this would be the time Seattle will surprisingly take off and take control of the NFC West division crown. But with the Rams doing what they did up in the last couple of weeks, they said, we're coming for you. So we'll see what happens between those two teams. But the Packers, they're the youngest team in the league, and they played like a veteran team yesterday. So kudos to them for getting an important win. I'm not saying that the Packers are going to take the number 2 or number 3 seed in NFC, but outside of Philadelphia, Green Bay's starting to come on right now as we have less than a month to go in the regular season.
Going to be very interesting for the Packers there. They may have an outside shot at the number 1 seed in the NFC. So a lot has to happen. We'll see what happens there. Now, your studs and duds here for Week 15.
All right, studs. My 3 studs are as follows. My first stud will be Joe Money. Joe Burrow, 26 of 37 for 271 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Bengals beat the Tennessee Titans 37-27. My second stud will be Mr. Lamar Jackson, 21-25, 290 yards and 5 touchdowns as the Ravens blow out the New York Football Giants 35-14. And my third stud will be Mr. James Conner, the star running back for the Arizona Cardinals, 16 carries, 110 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Cardinals dominate the Patriots 30-17 to keep their slim playoff hopes alive at 7-7.
All right, my 3 studs. Baker Mayfield with 4 TD passes and 288 yards, and probably one of the, like I said, the surprising win for the Bucs. So they beat the Chargers on the road. Josh Allen, another 4 TD passes and 2 rushing TDs. Definitely, making a case, a strong case. Well, 2 TDs and 2 pass TDs and 2 rushing TDs, 4 total TDs, and it's definitely making a case for him for MVP. And I'll give my other one to Mr. Jalen Hurts. Again, all that stuff going on with him and AJ Brown and et cetera, et cetera. They did their little dance that they usually do, but at least for right now, they kind of keep it, all that on the back pages for Philly. I know Philly fans are kind of losing their minds with it right now, but 2 TDs, 290 yards, and 45 rushing yards as well. As I lose my little earpiece here, but yeah, the Eagles a big win over the Steelers to try to keep within striking distance NFC, get a number 1 seed there.
Yeah, I'll give a bonus stuff to Mike Evans as well. Wide receiver of the Buccaneers, 9 catches, 159 yards, and 2 big touchdown catches for the future Hall of Famer.
Yep. Duds. San Francisco. Look, I know you guys have injuries and all that stuff with Devondre Campbell. Looks like he's done for the year with them. He's gonna be suspended for the rest of the year. So yeah, just not and they're not winning either, but they're still within the striking distance of the NFC West. They're still in it, so a lot of weird things have to happen, but they're still in it even after all that. The Giants, you said, Sid, they're basically giving up on Mr. Dable, and I think they all are getting ready for their going on the golf courses and such. So yeah, the Giants
getting ready for Cancun.
Yep. So they're kind of done for, and Indianapolis, and also Jonathan Taylor. I mean, you know better. I don't know what happened. I don't know if the ball just slipped out of your hands or you just dropped it, when you got to it. But that was a big game changer for that game. And because like I said, the Colts had a good start. So, that fumble, I think, changed the trajectory of that game.
Yes, and it sure did. And you took two of my three duds, but I'll concur with Jonathan Taylor in the trash as New York Football Giants. But my third dud will be a surprise. The Washington Commanders. Yes, they won yesterday, but as I talked about earlier, that performance in the second half, you could tell that they were playing not to lose instead of playing to win. They got away with it yesterday against a bad Saints team, but I'm talking about the Commanders. They have a big game against Washington at home next week. If they would have played Washington like they did yesterday, that will also have impressed. The season would have been on the brink. So the Commanders, even though they won yesterday, they got a lot of things to clean up.
Yeah, you don't let your franchise QB get sacked 8 times. But again, I digress. They play the Eagles next week, so you host the Eagles next week. So yeah, you can't really afford to have that kind of performance against the Eagles squad. They won't make you pay. This is Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Keith McGee around with you as we preview the other Monday night matchup. This will be on ESPN between Atlanta and Vegas. And Atlanta, I don't think they thought that Tampa would win that game against the Chargers yesterday, but now this win is more. This game is more important because they want the guys to be in striking distance of keeping up with Tampa in the NFC South against the Raiders.
Yeah. And the Falcons are playing against a lesser opponent on the road for the Falcons. The Raiders, we all know they have a whole bunch of problems offensively and defensively. And for Atlanta, this is the moment that Kirk Cousins needs to shine tonight. Bijan Robinson has been the only consistent player offensively for the Atlanta Falcons this year. You feed him the rock tonight. If that happens, Kirk Cousins needs to play a whole lot better. Hold on to the ball. He's a veteran. He knows better, so he needs to make better decisions because the Raiders, even though they had nothing to play for, they can surprise the Falcons tonight. So, but it's all about the Falcons' attitude and fundamentals tonight for Atlanta. So I expect the Falcons to win. I know they're favored by 6, but like you said, given the fact that Tampa Bay upset the Chargers yesterday on the road, if that doesn't give the Falcons motivation to go out and play their best tonight, I don't know what is.
Maybe this might actually help them get geared up for that game. So that game will be at 7:30 Chicago time on ESPN, while the Bears-Vikings game will be on at 7 o'clock on ABC. No Manning cast today because of split Monday Nighter, but my apologies to all of America in advance for that Bears and Vikings game. So I think that's going to get ugly pretty quick.
Yeah, and Bill Belichick will be heading to Chapel Bill.
Well played. You should trademark that before someone in North Carolina does. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. The Bulls get a nice win against Charlotte, and the Lakers look like they might be back on track. They got a nice win yesterday, and of course we'll preview tomorrow's NBA Cup matchup between the Bucks and the Thunder. And of course also
we nearly had fisticuffs in that OKC Rockets game. We'll get into that.
Yes. Oh, yes, I saw the highlights there. Yep. Got to talk about that. And of course, in college hoops, the Illini lose a tough one against number 1 Tennessee. And also Tennessee women's squad, they break a record. We'll talk about that as well. Old School TV Monday. Bedard, got look like he's starting to get back on there for the Blackhawks, and so
finally,
yeah, right, exactly. And so we'll have all that to talk about coming up next. Lakina McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. More fun coming up in hour 2 right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. Lakina McGee is she. Sydney Brown, you know that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Ken McGee on the Twitter, X and Q's again, IG.
We have exactly 50 minutes left of this extravaganza as we call a sports talk radio show as we kick off hour number 2, talking Chicago Bulls and NBA Cup. If you have any questions or comments on those subjects during this half hour, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Let's start with the NBA as the Bulls on Friday. They get a nice win against the Hornets. Now, some of these games were added on, because of the NBA Cup and such. So some of these games were late add-ons. But the Bulls took care of business 109-95 over the Hornets. They were kind of shorthanded. Vooch was out, because of illness, and a couple other guys were out as well. But all 5 stars were in double figures. Ayo Dosunmu had 19 points leading the way for the Bulls. Josh Giddey had 17. Your buddy Jalen Smith had 11, including a couple of big shots there to kind of keep the Hornets at bay. Lonzo had 10 points in 19 minutes of action. Well, not much on that side for the Hornets, but on the flip side, beloved Bull Taj Gibson probably got the biggest ovation out of everybody on Friday night. Those last few seconds when the game was already in hand for the Bulls, but not the prettiest game for the Bulls, but again, they took care of business against a team that only has 7 wins this year, and they did what they had to do.
Check out these numbers, Lakina, for our audience out there. The Hornets shot the ball at a 17% clip from 3. The Bulls 27% from 3. Both teams combined to miss 75 3-pointers. How the hell does that happen in today's NBA?
Oh gosh, yeah. Like I said, this is actually one of those times where I'm glad I don't have to watch the Bulls games right now. So, about that. I heard about that 75 because I talked
Mm-hmm.
because I listened to our guys from CHGO, Matt Peck, Big Dave Watson, and of course Mr. Will Purdue as well. And it was pretty bad. For 75 3-pointers missed. Yuck. So yeah, but the
But
Bulls
yeah,
are
go ahead.
overcome and they end up getting the win. Sorry, Sid,
Yeah.
what's up?
Yeah, just a couple of things that I observed from last Friday's win against Charlotte. Lonzo Ball, I know his younger brother Lamelo didn't play, but Lonzo Ball
Mhm.
did great in 19 minutes of action with 10
Mhm.
points, four rebounds and 7 assists. 7 rebounds, 4 assists. You can tell that wrist injury is not bothering him. We know that his knee injury that he's been keeping him out for the last 2.5 years. He's now back. That's not bothering him either. So whenever he's on the floor, the Bulls seems they know what to do. They know where to get to that spots because when you get to your spots, point guards like that know where to give you the ball at your perfect spot. So Lonzo Ball, hopefully he stays healthy. Maybe he'll play for a different team at the trade deadline. We'll see about that down the road. But for right now, he's looking better for this Bulls team. I know they're 4 games under 500 currently, but maybe this Bulls team aren't as bad at the road. We talked about the injuries to Patrick Williams. I know Vucevic missed the game last Friday, but it's guys like Matas Buzelas, Jalen Smith, my guys stepping up, and also Taylor Horton Tucker. I know his stats didn't look great last Friday, but he's been playing well these last 2 or 3 weeks. So it's all about getting other guys in with the game experience, building up their confidence and having them play a system. You do have to give Bulls head coach Bill Ndapa credit for that. So we'll see what happens going down the road, but I kind of like the way this Bulls team has been playing. Josh Giddey, I don't know if you checked out the interview with Casey Johnson of CHSN the other day. For those of you that haven't, go to YouTube and catch that interview. But I've been up and down on Josh Giddey all year. We all know he's going to be the primary point guard for this Bulls team. They got him just in case Lonzo Ball struggled or didn't play at all this year. But Josh Giddey had a nice game last Friday, 17 points, 9 rebounds, including 7-13 shooting from the floor. So he bounced back. He had a bounce back performance. So that's what you like to see. I like to see that from him, from Josh Giddey. I'm talking about being that consistent guy with those numbers every night.
We just see what they do tonight against Toronto, a squad that's kind of slammed the list, Charlotte. So they should be able to win this game tonight. And after that, they have a home and home against Boston. They have Boston coming up later this week on Thursday. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I mean, look, I think the Bulls can perhaps get that win against Toronto and not look ahead at that Boston game coming up later this week. So we'll see what happens. The rest of the Friday's games, we'll just do that, get that out the way. Minnesota beat LA 97-87, 23 points from Mr. Anthony Edwards. Also, Anthony Davis had 23 points to lose ever for the Lakers. The Pacers, no trouble with the Sixers. The Cavs pulled away from the Wizards. Memphis, no trouble with Brooklyn. Denver with a nice win against the Clippers, 120-98, 20 points from Jamal Murray there in that game. Phoenix with a nice win against the Jazz, 34 points from Mr. Devin Booker, and 28 points for Victor Wembanyama as the Spurs hold off the Blazers.
Watch out for those Spurs. We talked about it early in the year. Lakina said I might like them for a potential play-in tournament spot. They're playing around 500. I'm not saying get well soon. Greg Popovich, I know he suffered a minor stroke about a month ago. Get well soon, but they're playing some good basketball. And I know they're a young team. I know they had Chris Paul there as a veteran to help guide some of those young guys along with Harrison Barnes with Victor Wembanyama. But if the Spurs keep playing like this, I do not want to play them. If they get into the play-in tournament, I'm not saying they're going to win the NBA championship, those crazy predictions, but you cannot count the Spurs as an easy win on the schedule anymore. I know they got. I'll call them. Who plays for the Spurs? Jeremy Sochan, the poor man's Dennis Rodman, with a different hair color every week. It seems like, but he's one of their young guys. He's starting to play well. So, and you still have Zach Collins. So the Spurs have a nice mixture of young players and veterans. And don't forget about Keldon Johnson as well. So the Spurs, you cannot take them lightly anymore. Now, going back to that Pacers 76ers game, I had a chance to watch some of that live last Friday. Joel Embiid, the Philadelphia was actually playing well until he got hurt. So we don't know how long he's going to be out. So the injury bug continues to hunt that 76ers team.
Yeah, that's another tough injury for the Sixers there. So yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting if they still have anything to play for by the All Star break. To the NBA Cup in Vegas, the semifinals Saturday. The first one, the Hawks beat the Bucks beat the Hawks. I should say 110-102. Of course, Giannis had 32 points. Dame had 25. Giannis had a double double with 14 boards along with that 32 points. Brooke Lopez at 16 for them. Not too much after that. Now, as far as the Hawks are concerned, Trae Young had 35. DeAndre Hunter had 15 off the bench, and Jalen Johnson had 15 points, but not it wasn't enough as they as just too much firepower for the Bucks over the Atlanta Hawks in that first semifinal.
Yeah, it was all about Giannis in that fourth quarter and that whole Milwaukee Bucks team making big plays down the stretch. Atlanta, we know what they are. They're average at best. No Trae Young, and the Hawks are even worse. So Atlanta did what they could in that first half, but once it came the fourth quarter, the Milwaukee Bucks turned up the notch, and in particular Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they carried the day. And so they'll play OKC for the title for the NBA Cup title on Tuesday. But it was all about the Milwaukee Bucks in that fourth quarter there.
Speaking of the Thunder, they beat the Rockets, I should say, won 11-96. It was basically the SGA show, 32 points for the Thunder. Of course, I think Hardenstein had 21, Jalen Williams had 20, Lou Dort had 19 for them as well. Now, there was a little bit of got a little testy those last few moments there for the Thunder and the Rockets, but you can tell there was some frustration that was kind of lingering there for the Rockets because they missed a lot of shots, and unfortunately they weren't able to kind of get it going there. And even though Fred VanVleet had his not his best three performed in the three, he only had 6 of 29 in his last 3 games. He missed his first 9 shots from 3. So yeah, a lot of frustration for the Thunder there in that game on Saturday.
It was Aaron Wiggins.
Rockets, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, it was Aaron Wiggins for the OKC Thunder and Alperen Şengün for the Houston Rockets. Their big guy. He didn't have the world's greatest game either, and both of them got into it at the end there. I know Richard Jefferson commented on the broadcast. As long as I'm just paraphrasing a little bit, as long as it stays on the court, you like that animosity between those two teams. Those two teams are going to go at it for the next 4 or 5 years. And as we said last year, Lakina, OKC came out of nowhere and finished at the top of the Western Conference, even though they got eliminated in the second round by Dallas last year. We see the potential in this team. We talk about Houston Rockets this year. They're off to a surprising start. They could be this year's version of OKC. And when you have those two dynamics taking place on that court, stuff like this happens. But these are whether you want to believe it or not, these are the two top defensive teams statistically in the NBA. I know Mike Breen kept pointing out on the broadcast last Saturday. And the OKC Thunder, they've been together just a couple of years longer than this Houston Rockets group, and they showed through as well. But for the Rockets, Jalen Green, who leads that squad, he makes that squad go. He had a not so good performance, only 5 of 14 shooting for 12 points, and I think that was a key for the Thunder to shut him down defensively. He didn't have a good shooting. Şengün didn't have the world's greatest performance. I know Kendrick Perkins of ESPN calls him the baby Jokic. I don't know about that. He's a good player, but I don't think he's on Jokic's level. Not even close. At least not yet. Anyway, but Houston's still a good team. They'll learn from this and hopefully they could keep it up throughout the season. But OKC was a better team. They still are the better team, and it's going to be interesting to see what their defensive strategy is going to be against Giannis coming up on Tuesday for the NBA Cup.
Yeah, that's going to be kind of an interesting matchup. SGA versus Giannis. That should be a fun matchup for them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that might be an entertaining game. It's going to be at 7:30 on ABC tomorrow night. And yeah, we'll see how the ratings are for that game. But yeah, we'll see what happens there on now for yesterday's matchups. The Suns got a nice win. They've won 2 in a row. They beat Portland and Dallas. 46 points. In the first quarter. That kind of did them in. That kind of did the Warriors in as Luka had 45. I should say it was a season high for him as they were able to hold off the Warriors. 29 points for Klay Thompson. He did a couple of big threes late. Kyrie had 21 as well. So it was really the big three, and the other guy stepped up to PJ Washington. Quinn Grimes also had 14 off the bench. So the Warriors, to their credit, I mean, look, Steph had 26. Not had an okay showing from three, but not a lot. The guys around him now. Draymond Green did have 21 off the bench, but Kuminga had 20, but not just everyone else was kind of like didn't really show up for the Warriors yesterday, other than those guys.
Yeah, it was the lack of attention to detail defensively for the Warriors, obviously, and they couldn't hold down Luka or Klay Thompson to return to the Bay Area part two, I think. But as you mentioned, Thompson hit a couple of big shots down the stretch. And for the Mavericks, I think a season best, 21 to 41 for 51% from 3-point range, and they shot the ball well at 59%. So this is the best I've seen Dallas play all year long, at least in a while. So. Dallas said they're trying to stay back on track. Golden State, they still have some work to do, especially defensively. So it's all about consistency with these two teams. I think we can all agree that the Warriors are not as good as we thought. As they shout out to that great start to start the year, but Dallas, we expect them to be at a high level all year. We'll see if they can keep this up.
Off to Los Angeles, a little further south, as the Lakers got a much-needed win against the Grizzlies. 40 points from Mr. Anthony Davis and 16 boards. LeBron, his first game back, had 18 points. Austin Reeves had 19. But yeah, I mean, the Lakers, to their credit, they were able to do just enough. Actually made some defensive stops late to win this game for them.
Yeah, actually turned that game off midway through the third quarter. They were up by 20. So, okay, the Lakers going to win this game. Then I saw the box score said, what? They let the Grizzlies back in the game. I know John Moran was out there, but I didn't see him do anything too much as far as the highlights are concerned. But like you said, the Lakers did what they had to do finally for the first time in the last couple of weeks, play defense, team defense. We all know what Anthony Davis could do at both ends, but as you mentioned, it was the supporting cast that came through in this one in particular, also Reeves with those 19 points.
Yep. We'll see if they can get back on track here. Now, Minnesota beat San Antonio 106-92 and had and the others had 26 points, 20 in a losing effort for Victor Wembanyama for the Spurs. The Knicks, Jalen Brunson led the way with 31 as they took care of the Magic. Boston, no trouble with Washington, and the Pacers beat the Pelicans, 22 points for Mr. Pascal Siakam, and that's your schedule. That was your schedule for this weekend in NBA.
All right, we'll turn to, speaking of the schedule for the NBA for this week coming up, we'll start out with tonight's games. Philadelphia will visit Charlotte. Miami will visit Detroit to take on the Pistons, the Bulls, and the Raptors from Canada, as we mentioned earlier. The Cleveland Cavaliers will visit the Brooklyn Nets. The Denver Nuggets will play the Sacramento Kings, and the Utah Jazz will visit the Los Angeles Clippers to round out tonight's schedule.
And of course, tomorrow night is the NBA Cup Championship between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Oklahoma State Thunder. That'll be at 7:30 on ABC. No game scheduled for Wednesday to get everybody geared up for the other part of the schedule coming up. Now, Thursday's games, you got Utah and Detroit at 6. Now, the first doubleheader, Thursday night doubleheader for TNT starts this week. OKC and Orlando, that's at 6 o'clock. That's the first game of that doubleheader. Charlotte and Washington. The Bulls go on the road. Like I said, home. This is the first part of that. They go on the road against Boston. That should be a fun one there, as it usually is. Brooklyn and Toronto. New Orleans and Houston. Golden State and Memphis. Atlanta and San Antonio. The Clippers and the Mavs. You kind of wish that was the second half of that DNT doubleheader, but I digress. The Pacers and the Suns, as the Pacers start their East Coast trip. The second game of TNT doubleheader should be a good one, though. Nonetheless, you got the Knicks and the T-Wolves, Denver and Portland, and the Lakers travel to Sacramento. That should be a good one.
Yeah, it's for that second game on TNT is the return of Karl Anthony Towns. We'll see what kind of reception he'll get from the Minnesota Timberwolves faithful as he'll play there for the first time since he was traded over the summer to the New York Knicks. That's Thursday at 8:30 on TNT.
And that is your schedule for this week in the NBA. This is Second City Sports on Sports with Chicago. Keenan McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we switch gears here. Stick with the hoop side, but go on the college side, on the men's side. The Illini lose a tough one to number 1 Tennessee was back and forth. There were like 14 lead changes and 13 ties or something like that. But it was Jordan Gainey who came off the bench with 23 points, including a very tight Edney style. If you guys remember that from the '95 tournament. Yeah, well, I know our buddy Mike Burr from NBC Chicago is not happy about that because it happened against his Missouri Tigers. But I digress. But it was kind of that style of play, and of course, the Illini just couldn't stop him, and it went in right at the buzzer, and the Vols were able to get that big win.
Yeah, boy, for the Illini, missed the first of 2 free throws, which would have given the Illini the lead, and they definitely would have had to change their defensive strategy if he would have knocked down both those free throws. Looking, as we said, as I told you on this program last Friday, what were the 2 keys I was looking for in this game? Free throws and rebounding. Free throws for Tennessee, 20 of 28 for 71%. The Illini actually outshot Tennessee from the free throw line at 83%, 30 of 36. But I said second key, I said rebounding. They were even at reboundings in terms of defensive reboundings, but overall, Tennessee had a +5 advantage over the Illini in the rebound department, 42 to 37 overall. But offensive rebounds is what killed the Illini. Tennessee had a +5 advantage there, 17 to 12.
Yeah, that was a big. That's what kind of kept Tennessee in it. So good for them. They keep their number 1 ranking. So that should be interesting there in Illinois. I mean, look, you can only go from this kind of game. So it's a bummer that they lost. But yeah, look, they have a good. They have a solid record. Going to Big Ten play as they continue Big Ten play coming up in a little bit here. So you'll take it if you're an Illinois fan. The tough loss, but this will get you tested for March. Auburn, no trouble with Ohio State. Kentucky beat Louisville. Dayton, they got a win against Marquette. That could go a long way going into March. Alabama, held off Creighton. Connecticut beat Gonzaga. Florida, I think they only have 1 loss. They beat Arizona State pretty easily. KU got back on track against NC State. These are Saturday's games. Texas A&M beat Purdue, held them off. And good for Porter Morris's Oklahoma squad. They're now undefeated. They beat OK State 80-65. Memphis was a nice win on the road against Clemson in overtime.
Yes, they beat the Clemson Tigers by 5. I didn't get a chance to watch that whole game, Lakina, because it started so early. But shout out to Penny Hardaway. They beat a couple good opponents this year. They beat UConn in that tournament in Hawaii a few weeks ago, and now they get a tough road win against an ACC opponent. Great job by Penny Hardaway and the Tigers crew.
Mississippi beat Southern Miss. Wisconsin held off Butler. Cincinnati beat Xavier. I think that's the first win in that rivalry in like 3 years for Cincy. They're playing pretty well so far. UCLA held off Arizona in an old Pac-10 / Pac-12 rivalry game. A good showing here. DePaul with a nice win over Wichita State. They've been playing very well this year. I think they're like 9-3, I think. So yeah. So I mean, look, we'll see they get to Big East play. I mean, that's really they're like 0-1 already. So we'll see what happens there. Georgetown with a nice win against Syracuse. Rutgers needed a buzzer beater, but they beat Seton Hall. Let's see here. Anything else of note? No. But yeah, BYU beat Wyoming, and going into yesterday's games, actually there being a better showing there. Iowa State beat Omaha, no trouble with them. Oregon beat Stephen F. Austin. Virginia Tech over Navy. Like I said, this is a better showing for our local teams. UIC came back to tie it against Little Rock. They beat Little Rock in overtime. Mercer beat Chicago State, unfortunately. Iowa, no trouble with Northern Iowa. Bounced back from that loss to Iowa State. Texas, no trouble with Arkansas Pine Bluff. Northwestern with a nice win against Georgia Tech. Another one that could go a long way in March. Illinois State beat St. Louis. San Francisco, they're 9-3 right now too. They could definitely give Gonzaga and St. Mary's fits down there over there in the West Coast Conference. We'll see how they do there. They beat Loyola. They've had a tough showing there. You gotta feel bad for Coach Valentine and his guys. They lost he lost another one of his main guys to injury. So we'll see how that goes. And USC beats Montana State.
Yeah, speaking of Gonzaga, they had a tough loss last Saturday in NYC against UConn. I'm not saying UConn is going to win three in a row. It's going to be awfully tough, but and they show what they were truly made of, especially down the stretches of that game.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, tomorrow you got DePaul. They get back in action as they face a very tough South St. John squad in Queens over at Carter Second Arena. That's gonna be at 5:30 on Peacock. So for those of you, all you
Oh, that's
DePaul
Rick
fans,
Pitino's crew. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So they'll be on Peacock tomorrow. Duke meets George Mason. North Carolina and Florida, that should be a good one down there at the Spectrum in Charlotte. That's where the Hornets play. That should be a good one there. Ole Miss and Southern, Michigan State, they're back in the top 25, although they have a tough one in Oakland against Oakland, so that should be an interesting one there. Dayton, they're back in action. They face UNLV at home. Clemson and South Carolina, the Battle of South Carolina, that should be a good one there. That's going to be on
It's
this
Tuesday,
network.
folks.
Yep, tomorrow. And let's see anything else. So no, Seton Hall and Villanova. That's also going to be streaming on Peacock. Auburn, they host Georgia State. Valparaiso and Ohio State. That's going to be on Peacock at 7. Let's see here. UCLA and Prairie View. That's going to be on the Big Ten Network. Welcome to college sports in 2024, folks. Let's see. Anything else of note for this week? For Wednesday. Let's see here. You got UConn.
Yeah, Oklahoma and Michigan at 8 o'clock on ESPN2, and that's this on Wednesday. That's the Jumpman Invitational.
Yep, and I think before that, I think that's Memphis and Virginia. That should be a good one on ESPN2. Xavier, UConn on FS1 at 6. Let's see anything else of note. Toledo and Houston, that's going to be on ESPN Plus. They're at number 15. San Francisco, we talked about them earlier. They'll face Bradley at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus. You got Alabama, North Dakota on CBS Sports Network. That's going to be rocking over there at Grand Forks there. So that should be good on them for going on the road. It's going to be a hostile environment down there. So that should be a good, interesting one there. Canisius and Loyola Chicago is going to be on ESPN Plus. Nichols in Gonzaga on ESPN Plus. Marquette hoping to bounce back from their loss to Dayton. They host Butler. That's going to be on FS1 and Big East play. Washington State, old Pac-12 rivals, playing off conference. Of course, they're in different conferences now. That'll be on FS1 at 10 o'clock Wednesday nights. And anything else? Chicago State at Grand Canyon at 8 o'clock on ESPN Plus.
One game enough for Thursday. Shout out to ESPNU. On Thursday at 6:30 p.m., we'll have Grambling versus Delaware State and some HBCU basketball live, folks, not tape delay, live. That's the Toyota Chris Paul HBCU Classic presented by Walmart.
That should be a fun matchup there. You have the Battle of the Bands even on the basketball side. So
yes,
so that should be a fun one there. And that's your schedule because a lot of the big teams are going to be are off this week, because of finals and such. So they'll not a lot this week, but some good matchups coming up though still.
You're listening to Second City Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina here with you. When we return, we have baseball moves to discuss. The Northsiders decided, well, we need to make a move, and they did, acquiring Kyle Tucker via trade from the Houston Astros. Are they done? We'll discuss. And we'll have some other sports nuggets in time permitting, old school TV Monday. That, as you in a whole lot more, as you stick and say, you're listening to Second City Sports right here at Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am City Brown. You know that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
We have less than 25 minutes left of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. This is our grab bag segment. If you have any questions or comments for us, any of our topics that we discussed on today's show, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. The key will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, so let's get the MLB stuff out the way. We talked about it on Friday, of course, when the trade went down, the Kyle Tucker trade. From Houston to the Cubs for Jesus Sarias and Hayden Wesneski. I know last year he had his shin injury, so he only played 78 games. Talking about Tucker, but look, he has a career OPS of 870 over his 7 seasons there, and it's kind of it's team controlled. So let's hope that maybe you're willing to put in this extension. But I've heard people say that is this like a win now move? But as far as Seiya Suzuki, he might still be with the team. I know Cody Bellinger might be on the move. I know there was some rumors that maybe him going to the Yankees, but the Yankees want too much and such. So the Cubs have actually been pretty busy so far this off season. But it'll be I guess this is kind of a lame duck year for Jed Hoyer. So we'll see. But it's going to be kind of interesting to see how all this goes.
And we talked about it briefly as the news was breaking on our last show last Friday, as you mentioned, as the news of that trade went down. But does this open the door for Cody Bellinger to get traded, whether it's to the New York Yankees or somewhere else? Could this open the door for Bellinger to go to Seattle? We know that the Mariners need a big bat. They have a whole plethora of pitchers. I think Jay Hoyer should be sniffing there to see if he can get a starting pitcher or two. Because as I said before, again, throughout the season, I'll say it now, with the short injury history of Justin Steele, what he went through last year, Shota Imanaga had a great rookie year, but you hope that everything will be okay with him. You still need another starter or two, and the Cubs should not be done as far as doing all-season acquisitions, because this team is still lacking that big back. Kyle Tucker will bring that element to the Cubs as far as his back concerned. But let's not forget he's a very good corner outfielder as well. He's definitely going to bring that to this Cubs team. Now, besides getting a starting pitcher, which this team desperately needs, what do you do with Seiya Suzuki? What do you do with Ian Happ? I think both of them are safe. I'm using air quotes here. I think both of them are safe here as far as next year is concerned. But if you can get something for Seiya Suzuki, so be it. But given his injury history, I don't think that if Jed Hoyer puts Suzuki out there in the trade market, he's going to get back what he wants. So that's why I think Seiya Suzuki is safe for now. But there's some other moves going to have to be made there. And also, too, let's not forget, you also need an extra bullpen arm.
Yeah, that's really good because you really don't have a closer, so you gotta have to maybe get a closer probably via the trade market and see to let the kids play as they say. So I mean, like I said, I mean I'm sure Jed's not done, so yeah, but I want to see how some of these other moves go down if they can get something. Don't be like the Bulls and give up Cody Bellinger for nothing. Like try to see if you can get like maybe a top prospect or perhaps even one of their top closers or their setup men at least.
Yeah. And also too for the Chicago Cubs, Nico Horner. I know his name's been out there a minute. It was out there for a minute last year during the trade down line, but I would keep him. He's your second baseman for right now and for the future. Dansby Swanson isn't going anywhere. I know his bat started to heat up over the last month and a half of last season, so I think you set there in the infield. First base, Michael Busch. I know some people talk about them trying to go after Pete Alonso. That's not happening. I know some people are talking about Nolan Arenado, who's out there on the trade market for St. Louis. That's not happening either. So I think Michael Busch is safe at first base. Third base, I think that's still open unless you know something that I don't know. But like we said, it's all about the pitching for the Cubs from this point on until the start of the season. You need another starter or two and need to boost up that bullpen, at least getting one more big arm in there.
Should be interesting to see what happens with that. We'll keep you guys updated. Any other like big trades, and not just for the Cubs and the White Sox, but the MLB as well in case they go down. But yeah, should be interesting these next few weeks as we get into the new year and we have spring training coming up in a couple of months. Let's go. Oh, as a second stage sports on Sports Child, Lakita McGee, Cindy Brown with you. As let's do a little college of football for a second. Congrats to Travis Hunter. He wins the Heisman Trophy, just edging out Ashton Genty from Boise State. The two also headline the AP All-American squad. Oregon QB Dylan Gabriel finished third, and Cam Ward finished fourth. Those are your top four there. But yeah, nice showing there. You saw the little moment that Travis had with Coach Prime. His dad couldn't make it because he had work commitments and such. But but yeah, look, I think he's a two-way player. You usually don't get a chance to see guys that can play multiple ways. Charles Woodson, all the way back in '97, did that. Of course, some people will say that Peyton Manning won the Heisman that year, but look, if we're gonna get a guy to have two or what's his case, because he did punt returns. Remember that was a big punt return that Ohio State that kind of broke the game over there for Michigan there at the Big House years ago. But yeah, look, Travis Hunter, we'll see how he does. If he decides to play in their bowl game or if he decides to go ahead and just train for the draft, we'll see. But look, he followed Prime to Jackson State, where he could have went somewhere else. He stuck with Prime, and now he's a Heisman winner.
Yeah, that was a great speech by Mr. Hunter. Congratulations to him for winning that award. As I told you guys that was going to happen on the show last Friday. But the question is now, I think him and Shedeur Sanders will play in their bowl game coming up here in the next week or so. But the question is now, which primary position will Travis Hunter play? I know there's going to be a debate going on for the next few months until the April NFL draft. But which position will get him the most weight? I think me personally is wide receiver. We know that he could do both that and playing a defensive back. I know Deion Sanders did both for a while, but stuck with corner for the majority of his career. But for Travis Hunter, I think he's going to because they're not paying top defensive backs like they used to. And the way the league is going right now will be heavily offensive, being offensive heavy. I think Travis Hunter should be a starting wide receiver. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think you're gonna go where the money is. I think wide receiver might be the best bet. Although I would be surprised if a coach decided, look, let's try to play it two ways. So like I said, I mean, he has some time to figure it out if he decides to he wants to play two ways. Does he want to kind of play two ways? We saw what Woodson, he ended up playing mostly corner. He did a little bit of wide receiver early on in his career, but he did mostly corner. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But he's got a big decision coming up, and look at this, he'll have to do it right this second. So that definitely helps him there. Oh, the annual Army Navy game commenced on Saturday, and Navy upset Army 31-13. This is actually the first time in a while that both these teams have actually played well. They're both going to be playing in bowl games. I think Navy's bowl games is next week, so they get a little. They can't really celebrate too much after their win, although they do with the Commander Cup trophy. But yeah, nice win for Navy, the 125th annual meet between those two squads, and some of the bowl games so far. Jackson State in the they beat South Carolina State in the Celebration Bowl. Of course, these are the battle of the HBCU schools. So nice win for Jackson. They were heavily favored in this game anyway, so not a big surprise there with some of the bowl games. They're the first bowl game up there for that. You have Memphis and West Virginia. That's going to be in the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. That is a real bowl game, folks. Look, I'm not.
Yeah,
these
major ones start tomorrow.
So I'm not making these titles up, folks. I mean, give me a little bit of credit there, but yeah, that's in Frisco, Texas. That's gonna be 8:00 on ESPN. Wednesday, you got Western Kentucky and James Madison in the Boca Raton Bowl. That's going to be, of course, in Boca Raton, Florida. You got Cal and UNLV in the Art of Sport LA Bowl. That's down there in Inglewood, California, where the Rams and the Chargers play at SoFi. Georgia Southern and Sam Houston. That's going to be down in the Superdome in the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl coming up. That'll be on Thursday on ESPN2.
Yep, and of course we'll have more bowl games on Friday, and we'll have the first game of the new 12-team college football playoff between Indiana and Notre Dame. We'll preview that game coming up for you guys on Friday. Of course, there's, I believe, 3 games on Saturday for that initial opening round for the college football playoff. So we'll dive deeper into those matchups coming up on our show on Friday. Hopefully we'll have a guest or two to preview those matchups. But it's that time of year for you, especially for you, Lakeem, being our college sports guru. So I know this is going to be a happy time for you for this time of year.
Yes. I always keep an eye on some of the smaller games because I know some people say, "Oh, there are too many bowl games," but look, for some of these squads, I mean, it's actually extra time for them to actually play, and and for a lot of these seniors, those 6, 7, especially those 5th and 6th year and 7-year guys, this is a nice way for them to kind of wrap it up. They get a cool trophy. I mean, you got the Pop-Tarts Bowl coming up in a couple of weeks.
All those diabetes and that sugar.
Oh God, a year's worth of a lifetime supply of brown sugar and cinnamon and Pop-Tarts. Good Lord, that's gonna kill somebody. But look, I digress. Like I said, we'll dive deeper. Like I said, we'll preview the first of the playoff games coming up this week on Friday. So it should be a good one coming up here. Now, staying with the college sports theme here, we'll go to women's basketball. 130. If you took the over in the Tennessee North Carolina Central game, you had a nice Saturday. 139-59. North Carolina Central, they're over, but even still, they actually broke the record for most 3 points made. That's on all divisions. That's even more than the NBA. They hit 33 pointers. And that you don't usually see that every day. Samara Spencer, she had 9 of those herself. Had a career high 33 points there. It's great. I know it's North Carolina Central, but even still. The previous record, the previous record was actually Arkansas. They did 19. Of course, the other record was Western Illinois. They did it years ago. I remember that. 136 points also set a record for them as well. That's the most they've 139 points. That's the most they've scored since 2002. Kim Caldwell's got those ladies balling right now. They're 8-0, and they're not I think they're number 15 now. They actually went up a few spots.
Yeah, and I was going to say about the women's game. I didn't get a chance to check out any of the action this weekend, but I know there's one game I'm looking forward to next Saturday night. Shout out to Fox for putting out this game set next Saturday night in prime time Paige Beckers, aka Paige Buckets, as UConn will play USC in Juju Watkins. I know many people that have not seen Juju Watkins. She is the Michael Jordan of college women's college basketball right now. That's coming up this coming Saturday at 7:00. We'll talk about it more on Friday's show. Well, that's this coming Saturday night on Fox, USC versus UConn. I definitely cannot wait for that one.
Well, UConn has a tough one coming up on tomorrow. They got a Iowa State squad. I know they've drawn the last couple of games, but that's a good squad there down there in Ames. And yeah, OU and Michigan. No, that's not a football matchup. There's actually a women's college hoops matchup. They're both 9-1. That should be a fun one. It's gonna be on ESPN2 at 8:30 tomorrow night. So a couple of good ones coming up on the women's side, and should be a lot of fun. So we'll talk about the UConn SC matchup coming up on Friday, because that should be probably another one of those premier games. So far as you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Charlie Kim Casey Brown with you. Now we haven't done this in a while, but let's do that hockey as the Blackhawks got the first win for Hero Coast Sorensen. They get their revenge on the Islanders, avenging a loss from a couple of days ago. They beat them 5-3, and Connor Bedard, he's getting off his slump. He had 2 goals, including the go-ahead goal there. And Sorensen, like I said, I'm not saying that he should get the job permanently, but this is his second win, so he's definitely going to try and make a case for him to get the job permanently. But at least the Hawks. I know Foligno was out, due to illness, but a very nice showing by the Blackhawks yesterday, I should say.
Yeah, after the team struggled in there, going back to the all bad habits, blowing leads in his first couple, talking about the new coach's first couple of games, they finally held on and beat the Islanders 5-3, as you mentioned. Connor Bedard finally getting on the score sheet with 2 points with a goal and assist. Teuvo Teravainen is the ageless veteran, as we say, Lakina. I remember he was right in the end of that cup run back in the day. He had a goal and 2 assists. He was named the first star of the game yesterday. And for the Blackhawks, Lakina, you just hope that this team can continue to grow as we expected coming into this year. Were they a Stanley Cup playoff contender? No. Were they going to make things interesting? Yes. Maybe they still can, but maybe they could use this as a jump-off tool, because they still have a tough schedule between now and the Winter Classic coming up in a couple of weeks at Wrigley on New Year's Eve against the St. Louis Blues. They're not particularly lining up the scoreboard either, but I digress. But going back to yesterday's game, most of the statistics were pretty much even keel. It went to the favor of the Islanders, the team for shots on goal, face-offs won, but it was the little things for the Blackhawks that got it done for them yesterday, including being 1 for 2 on the power play yesterday. So that was very nice to see. 0 for 4 for the New York Islanders. And with the block shots, both teams ended up with 10. It's about the little things that this Hawks team needs to learn how to do. Playing double chase at times, going into the corner, digging pucks out deep, being responsible defensively. I don't know how many times, Lakina, the opportunity I get a chance to watch Blackhawks hockey via this damn antenna. They're out of positions, defensively out of position, especially doing face-offs. And that's where they're being caught up at all year long. So they got to be disciplined, stay with their responsibilities defensively, not give up big leads, and I think they'll be okay. Once again, I'm not saying they're going to the playoffs or anything like that, but it's continuing to develop daily habits and being consistent with those daily habits. It's the little things that count.
Yeah, maybe they'll actually finally kind of turn it around a little bit here. Like I said, I'm not saying they're going to challenge like the Jets or the Wild for the playoff spot, but they can kind of they don't have the worst record. I mean, they're tied with they have the tiebreaker because they got more they got more losses than the Preds do, but they'll be interested to see what the Hawks do with this stretch coming up before the Winter Classic, because I'm actually going to try to watch that. So, it's going to be – I want to actually show a little bit of good hockey. But, look, like I said, it looks like Bedard might be starting to turn around a little bit. So, we'll see what happens there. Toronto's looked really good so far, though. Hopefully Austin Matthews doesn't break any more skates, because you saw what happened. I mean, he broke his blade, and if you guys can see, he broke his blade, and he had to one of his teammates had to drag him to the bench. So that was actually pretty fun to actually end up winning that game. I'm talking about the Maple Leafs did, but yeah, Florida's looked really good so far. The Caps looked really good even without Mr. Ovechkin. Jerseys looked really good. How I feel about the Carolina Hurricanes squad, they look really good too. Of course, we talked about Winnipeg and Minnesota. They're kind of like the two leaders in the Western Conference, although Vegas looked really good too, so is the Kings and the Oilers. So at least so far, it looks like kind of like what we thought it would be. Although I don't think no one had the Jets having the best record right now, but at least right now it's kind of going where we're expecting in the NHL.
Yeah, and also too, it looks like in the Eastern Conference, as usual, is going to be bunched up with with Washington making that um, surprise staying as leading the Metropolitan Division right now over New Jersey by 1 point. New Jersey's been one of those teams been knocking on the door these last few years. I know they made the playoffs a couple of times, but there's a team to be reckoned with. I know Carolina's struggled here a little bit as a late Kingdom, but they're in third place in that Metropolitan Division with the 19-10 and one record for 39 points. You know how they come on, especially toward the end of the season going into the playoffs. So you can look for them to be a contender there. Boston, I know they fired their coach almost a month ago now, but they still trying to get things together. So we'll see what happens as things shape out. In the Western Conference, I'm looking at Lakina outside of Winnipeg. Could they make the Stanley Cup final? They can, but I think it's just like last year. It's going to come out to be. It's going to be bunched up. Who's going to get the hottest? Vegas is still right there, leading the Pacific Division. The LA Kings. I know they've been on the Eastern road trip recently. They're starting to come on. So in Edmonton, it looks like they're starting to get it together a little bit. So that Western Conference, I'm not giving it to Winnipeg just yet, but I think it's going to be bunched up once again between now and the end of the season.
Usually is in this case, especially in that part of the conference. So it should be interesting, as we get into kind of really get into sort of the potatoes of the season so far in the NHL this year. So the Hawks do play the Capitals. That's gonna be on ESPN Plus. So they got a tough matchup coming up tomorrow against one of the top teams in the league. So that should be a fun one down there at the UC. Let's see here. A couple of updates for the NFL. Some breaking news here. The whole Deontay Johnson saga. Of course, the wide receiver with the Ravens. They mutually decided to part ways. So yeah, nice little, not nice way to kind of, but yeah, you got to wonder what's going on there. And Trayvon Diggs, the corner, looks like another injury for him. Of course, he injured his knee last night in the game against the Panthers. He's going to be he's done for the year because he apparently has arterial cartilage, and his recovery could take up to 8 months. So a big loss for that defense for Dallas. I've actually been playing pretty well lately, but yeah, just not the thing.
Yeah, it's been a tough go for Trayvon Diggs these last couple of seasons dealing with the injuries and whatnot. So speedy recovery to him. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sia Lakina here with you. Before we close it out with Old School TV Monday, just a couple of sports media news headlines here. I'll just read it off here, Lakina, to get your couple of hot takes real quickly. Actor Christian Bale will play the late great owner of the Oakland Raiders, Al Davis, in an upcoming John Madden film.
I think that's perfect casting. I think that's kind of like he definitely kind of has that little that little draw that of course I know he's British, but they not the first time that a British actor can play an American. But yeah, I mean this should be a good one. He can kind of get that little snore. I'm sure. I know he's a big NFL fan, so I know he's going to be studying very intently. So, yeah, I think that's good casting in that front.
In sports radio media news, the Rich Eisen show, I know he broadcasts his radio show live on YouTube. I know he left Fox Sports Radio a couple of years ago. Now he's back on an Infinity Sports Network, formerly known as CBS Sports Radio. He'll air his show live 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And, of course, Jim Rome show, which, he left CBS Sports Network for Twitter X over a year ago. His show will be aired now from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Infinity Sports Network, formerly known as CBS. So Rich Eisen is going to get more listeners, which I'm glad for you. I occasionally check it out on YouTube, but mostly via the podcast. He has a perfect blend of sports and entertainment.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite podcasts, his show. And of course I've been a fan of his, so I know you have too since his days at ESPN. He's gone on to still does great work with the NFL Network, and this has sort of been like his bread and butter as well. So good for him. Look, a bigger audience, I think, especially in that slot. So yeah, so
Yeah, and you brought up earlier in the show looking about the Randy Moss, the Pro Football Hall of Famer. Uh, well wishes to him as he's been battling cancer over the. I know he had surgery over a couple of weeks ago. And I know he's taking a break for NFL Countdown. We talked about Stuart Scott with our guest Larry Beal now a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately for Stuart Scott, and it's going to be the 10-year anniversary in a few weeks of his passing. But we want to send well wishes to Randy Moss from all of us here at Second City Sports and Sports Zone Chicago. Get well soon. Keep continuing to kick cancer's ass, and it's no joke. If you haven't gone through that yourself, you know somebody in your family. We know that cancer is an ugly word, and rightfully so. But it affects so many people's lives daily. So, Randy Moss, our thoughts are with you, and then going through this challenging time.
Yeah, and and if I can beat this, it's definitely Mr. Moss after the whole thing with how you want the news to come out and such. So I'm glad he was able to kind of like control the narrative, and get that going. So yeah, sending prayers and best wishes to him in this fight that I'm sure he will win. Now, on the flip side, though, Dickie V, of course, Dick Vitale, announced over the weekend that he is cancer free after another surgery. So. He'll continue to recover. We'll see if we can see him a little bit, as we get, deep into conference play for the college hoop season. So I'm sure, I know he says he's going to keep in touch with Randy as he goes through his fight. So, yeah, but, best wishes and give us to Mr. Moss. And of course, keep fighting and for both you and Dickie V.
Yes. And one more note, Lakina, going back to college football, Drew Aller, the star quarterback for Penn State, announces that he'll return to Penn State in 2025.
Not surprised. I know some people thought that maybe he would either go to the transfer portal, but yeah, I think he said he likes it there, and he really wants to, be able to get a chance to win the Big Ten title. So yeah, he'll have a lot of those guys that he'll be able to come back, and they'll be able to prepare for their their playoff game coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend.
Mm-hmm. All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you as we do around this time every Monday to close out the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We present to you Old School TV Monday, and for this week, and speaking of Rich Eisen, Lakina, not just me, but we will salute the 1990s ABC TV comedy drama Sports Night. That's right. It was an American comedy drama television series about a fictional sports news show called Sports Night. It focused on the friendships, pitfalls, and ethical issues the creative talent of the program faced while trying to produce a good show under constant network pressure. It was created by Aaron Sorkin, who also created West Wing on NBC. We'll do that show down the road next year. It was a half-hour primetime comedy drama that aired on ABC for 2 seasons from September of 1998 until May of 2000. The show also starred the late Robert Guillaume as the managing editor Isaac Jaffe, Felicity Hubbard as executive producer Dana Whitaker, Peter Krause as anchor Casey McCall, and Josh Charles, who made a name for himself after this show, as anchor Dan Rydell, Sabrina Lloyd as senior associate producer Natalie Hurley, and Joshua Molina as associate producer Jeremy Goodwin.
Yeah, it was kind of like a little. Some people always kind of compare this kind of like an ESPN, like dramatic version of ESPN. Some people say it was more like when CNN had sports. So yeah, that was kind of like people kind of like played off that. And yeah, I think it was one of those shows that I don't think they knew what to do with it. That's why was it a comedy? Was it a drama? That it was multi-cameras and they didn't have a live audience, but it had a little bit of dramatic elements there. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of like you really didn't know what direction to go. And I think that's kind of what killed it in the end, because it actually started off one way, and of course, as what shows do as it gets more and more popular, the ratings were actually pretty good for its first, like halfway through the first season, but then they kind of made some changes, kind of dropped off in mid-season and and ABC really didn't have it on really, for that second season. You couldn't really find it. It was so it kind of just faded into oblivion. So unfortunately, I think had it been handled better, it probably would have lasted longer.
And also, and this I didn't know until I did my research over the weekend, that the creator of the show wanted to keep the show going, to put it on a couple other networks actually had offers on the table to pick up the show, but he wanted to concentrate on the West Ring, and of course there was a better business decision at the time. But
Mhm.
he had offers on the table to go to other networks, but he chose not to do so. But I was watching a clip on YouTube over the weekend. Rich Eisen was being interviewed about sports night. Some people say, like you said, it wasn't about ESPN. And he said yes, to an extent it was, but creators and the producers of the show went behind the scenes for that whole weekend about with Rich Eisen and his colleagues doing Sports Center and doing post production meetings and things and whatnot. So it was basically based off the ESPN Sports Center. Remember those Sunday night shows with Keith Olbermann and Dan Patrick?
Mhm.
So they was trying to rival that as far as what this show was all about. And so I liked the show, and like you said, it kind of went away once they started involving people's love lives, and which was
Mhm.
fine and all, but early through that second season, it kind of lost its direction. But although it was a good, solid show in this first season, but like I said, that second season kind of got murky there, and the ratings got murky. And once that happens, the network decided to pull the plug.
Yeah, they did a whole like will they or won't they with Casey and Dana, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it kind of like that. I think that's something a lot of people I didn't really want to watch, and it kind of came like a soap opera, a half-hour soap opera. And look, I like soap operas, but sometimes I think you just gotta kind of figure out like the time and place. And like I said, I think had they kind of kept to the formula from the first season, then yeah, maybe it could have lasted maybe 4 or 5 years. But yeah, it just kind of went off the rails sort of after that.
Yeah, and regular guest stars included William H. Macy as the ratings expert, Sam Donovan, and Brenda Strong as Sally Sasser, the producer of the West Coast Update. And TV Guide ranked it number 10 on their 2013 list of 60 shows that were quote unquote canceled too soon.
And honestly, William H. Macy, of course, the husband, Miss Felicity Huffman, and
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, of course, Robert Guillaume, of course, had his stroke, right before the second season, so they were kind of in limbo there with his character. So, we kind of said he would die a couple years after the show ended, but it was definitely, you kind of wonder like had he have been able to stay on, who knows what direction the show would have been. But look, the other some of the stars on the show, they actually ended up doing pretty well for themselves. Of course, Josh Charles, of course, ended up on Dexter. No,
Mm-hmm.
not Dexter, but I forgot the show he ended up being on. But yeah, Pretty Krause, he's now on 911 with Angela Bassett. Of course, he did Parenthood for a few years. Felicity ended up doing Desperate Housewives.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, won an Emmy for that show. Josh Molina, he was on various shows and TV movies, so he ended up having a great career as well. So yeah, a lot of these guys, and gals ended up, even though they didn't, he ended up, of course, Josh Hart was on The Good Wife for many years as well with Juliana Margulies. So yeah, a lot of those guys ended up, folks ended up, going on to different, hit shows and then winning, Emmys and stuff like that. So, it actually ended up not being a bad thing for those folks after, the cancellation of that show.
Yeah, like I said, it made the show more popular. What you mentioned with those stars we just mentioned having a great careers after it. But yeah, I don't know if there was ever talk for a reboot, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But like I said, I enjoyed that first show, especially that first season. But things got kind of murky in that second season. But uh, it was something that was different at the time, and it was kind of cool. And like I said, it was the rise of ESPN at the time as well. So it was perfect timing. But like you said, once you involved a little bit too many things, and the timing wasn't that right for those certain elements, things could get murky, and that's what unfortunately happened, and especially with the ratings going down.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And in closing, yeah, I think, like I said, I think that if like I said, if they had like a direction, if they knew what to do, and if Aaron Sorkin, of course, he was with the West at the about the exact same time, like you
Mhm.
said, he ended up concentrating on the West Wing. That actually ended up being a better decision for him. So yeah. So but but yeah, like I said, a lot of those guys ended up having ended up success in other stuff. So it actually ended up not being a bad thing.
Yeah, so for Old School TV Monday, we salute the late 1990s, early 2000s comedy drama Sports Night. Lakita, take us home.
You can find my Kim McGee on the Twitter, X and Q again, the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, so enjoy all of the college hoops and all the early bowl season college football. We'll keep you guys up to date just in case there's any big news coming out in the pike, in baseball and so much more. So for Sid, I'm Kansas Miss Second City Sports. I'm Sports Chicago. Stay warm. Be safe, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
Holla!